Chapter 1. If Maitland Ferguson had known what was going to happen to his son later that night, then he would never have spent their last 5 minutes together before bed reading "We're Going on a Bear Hunt" for the 753rd time. Not that Maitland was paying much attention to the story. He knew it inside out, while his wife Fiona took her turn reading pages with an incredulous intensity, like she was discovering the story for the first time. Maitland would rhyme off entire pages without looking. Everything about the story irritated him, something he did a poor job of hiding. Fiona scowled at him, not for his lack of attention, but for the series of staccato vibrations coming from the phone in his trouser pocket. It was the rhythm of someone messaging in anger, smashing "send" after every short sentence. Finally, Fiona broke off from the story to implore Maitland, "Can't you put that on silent?" He seemed to be making a point of not checking his phone, as if he either already knew who it was, or didn't want to know. "Sorry," he mumbled in reply. "Who's texting you so much anyway?" "Sorry," he repeated, stealing a quick glance at who the sender was before shoving his phone back into his pocket. He evaded further by gesturing at the dad figure on the page. "What's with this guy anyway? He takes his whole family out to the countryside, not for a picnic or a nice walk, but to hunt for a fucking bear." Fiona combined a roll of the eyes with a grimace. Maitland didn't have to wait for her to explain, yet again, about not swearing in front of 5-year-old Jack. "An effing bear, then." He gestured further. "The 3 kids aren't properly dressed for the outdoors. He gets them all to wade chest-high through what must be a freezing river. Then once everyone's soaked to the skin and caked in mud, he takes them into a dark forest and then into the teeth of some Baltic blizzard, which is bad enough, but the dad then continues with his bear-hunting shit." Fiona couldn't be bothered calling him out this time. Meanwhile, Jack's attention had long since drifted from what should have been a peaceful bedtime story, munching his thumb obliviously as Maitland ranted on. "And then, when they actually find a bear, what does he do? He shites it and tells them they have to run away. The bear then follows them back home and they end up locked upstairs in the bedroom, hiding under the bed covers, all because this arsehole wanted to go on a bloody bear hunt." He broke off as another 3 vibrations went off. Anticipating Fiona's annoyance, he made a show that he was dealing with it. Jack, used to hearing them bicker in front of him, now had his entire fist in his mouth, bored out of his box. He looked off towards his bedroom window, where late evening sunlight was fighting its way around the edges of a blanket blind that swayed in a slight breeze. The window had been cracked open to try and break the heat. It had been pushing 30 degrees earlier, and even stripping Jack down to a pair of Spider-Man underpants and a white vest, he still felt warm to the touch. Fiona, seeing Maitland's frozen expression, pressed him. "Is everything all right?" She kept staring at him. "Well?" The blood had drained from his face, eyes lingering on the last message that had been sent. "You're about to enter a nightmare unlike anything you've ever experienced. Just remember, you could have stopped this." Maitland simply repeated, "Sorry," then turned his phone off completely. He lifted his hands to demonstrate that the phone had been dealt with properly now, but he couldn't wipe the shaken expression from his face. Fiona knew that something was wrong, and that she would never get the truth out of him. She never did. On the surface, Maitland and Fiona Ferguson had it all. A traditional red sandstone townhouse in Glasgow's sought-after downhill area. They were both partners in a thriving law firm with offices across the Central Belt, and made a small fortune, enough to cover 4 major holidays each year and fill their house with the best of everything. Money wasn't something they had had to think about for a long time. They were the sort of couple that when they shopped online, they filtered their searches by price, high to low. They had 2 cars out front, an Audi TT for Maitland and a white Range Rover for Fiona. Maitland cared about all that stuff, but for Fiona, it was all window dressing compared to the one thing they treasured more than anything: their smart, funny, and miraculously polite 5-year-old son, Jack. With Jack asleep in bed, his covers pushed down towards his feet, Maitland retired to the ensuite bathroom, while Fiona sat up in bed holding open a book but reading none of it. She noted him casually pocketing his phone from the bedside table on the way to the bathroom. His phone was an enigma to her. He always made sure that it was never left in her presence. Unlike Fiona, who was always leaving hers lying around. She didn't even keep a screen lock on. Maitland could scroll through her photos and messages anytime, while he guarded his like it had nuclear codes hidden inside. As soon as the bathroom door closed behind him, he paced around in front of the his and her sinks, contemplating the phone that he'd placed on the edge of the bath. It sat there now like an unexploded bomb he didn't know how to defuse. He leaned over his sink, staring down the plug hole that seemed to have become a metaphor for his life at that moment. He lifted his head to consider himself in the mirror. A handsome reflection stared back. The symmetrical features that had made him attractive to almost every female he'd encountered since his university days. The once chiselled jawline now sagging slightly from a dearth of recent gym visits. His hair grown out to floppy salt and pepper waves. He'd come from a family of wealthy estate agents, but he had far exceeded his parents' success. Plus, he'd gone to Hutchie Grammar, and his name was Maitland. Guys like him, with names like Maitland, didn't tend to end up unemployed buying scratch cards at 10 in the morning. The world, it seemed, had only success in store for Maitland Ferguson. But all that was about to disappear.